he really started to uptick and make value for as a runner. What happened?
Drew, hold on. I'm gonna put the camera on Drew. Buffalo signed a wide receiver named Walmart Chenault.
No!
LaVisca Chenault?
No! Why? To another edition of the Rock Pile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer Chris Kruger. In studio with us, as my beer foams everywhere, Mr. Anthony Prohaska from Cover One.
Ooh.
The disguised
Better
coverage.
lean in and sip on that.
Yeah, it's overflowing.
Disguised coverage. All of our drinks are overflowing here, Chris. What did you do to us?
I don't know. I mean,
this happens to you all the time, though. Last time I was here, 3 in a row.
He pre-shakes my beers.
I can buy that.
There's no way that... And you know what? Like, we were just talking off air before we started about how our pre-podcast disputes would make for amazing audio. Like, we could sell that as like $1 a month Patreon. Like, you could just tune in and listen to the crazy shit Chris and I yell at each other before we turn these microphones on. We have a real Opie and Anthony vibe, where it's like, hey, the mics go on and everybody's cool, but the second you turn these off, we might kill each other.
Chaos.
except we don't put a certain word on Twitter.
Fair. Yes, there are a lot of ways where we're not like Opie and Anthony. And so in that, you now have a very leaky cocktail, but what do you got there?
My fault. Whiskey sour.
Whiskey sour. Now, what is it about a whiskey sour? Like, I've never understood it.
Well, it's mainly that I like it.
Sure.
And
Yes.
it's got a good oaky afterbirth. No, I don't know. I just like them. It's just my drink of choice.
Chris, what is it that makes a whiskey sour special? Like,
It's
what is
simplicity.
It that makes a
It's 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice, 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup, and then 2 ounces of your bourbon, and that's it. You can add an egg white to make it Boston sour.
That's what I was going to say. And then certain places will do the egg white, and then it pops even more. This is delicious, though. And then the ice obviously puts it over the top. But yeah, I'm a big fan. It's literally what I order everywhere. So if you ever wanted to poison me and you knew I was going to a bar, just be like, poison the sour mix or all the whiskey or whatever. Like, you'll give me one of those ways.
Well, we know where you live, so we know places in that area don't offer a whiskey sour.
That's fair.
Chris just throwing shots from behind the cameras.
That's fair.
Guys, we are here talking tonight about the Bills' new free agent class, their approach to things, talk about some of the players involved, and more importantly, just the approach, right? Because the approach to constructing a free agent class is different for every single franchise.
Yes.
Kind of like your cocktail. There's multiple ways to do it. Some do it better than others. But everybody does it. Like, I can make a whiskey sour. Guarantee you it won't taste like that. It sure as hell won't have egg in it because that's for heathens.
Egg white.
I don't get egg anything.
Difference.
You don't put egg near my... I don't drink eggnog. I don't allow egg...
What? Eggnog is so good.
I don't allow eggnog in my home.
Oh, wow. That's fascism.
Well, here's the thing. My wife can't have dairy.
Okay. Oh, that's different then. Okay, that's fair.
If I just boycott it for long enough, my children will never actually know it exists.
Oh, but you're denying them happiness and greatness at the same time.
And so then they'll grow up the way I grew up, basically agnostic to this monstrosity that is eggnog.
Did you... Agnostic?
Agnostic. Damn it. No, there was not a... We don't do puns here.
That's the high point of the show. It's all downhill from here. There's nowhere to go but down.
We're too on the nose for puns like that, Anthony. So everybody does it, but not everybody does it the same. A couple weeks ago, I sat here on this podcast and told everybody who was listening that the Bills were probably going to be better off and were likely to be retaining more of their own talent than they would be sourcing it from outside the building. And this is where I get to take a small victory lap. I'll take my, as much of a victory lap as you can have.
It says that in the notes. It says victory lap in the notes.
Victory lap.
Like that.
But then it dawned on me after I said it. I'm a guy drinking a Utica Club in a fucking basement. How much of a victory lap can you really take?
It's a sweet basement, though.
I mean, it is a pretty
It's
cool
a pretty
basement.
baller basement.
Yeah, you also didn't know that we have shelves now.
No, well, obviously, I noticed the shelves because what else are the bottles going to sit on? I didn't think I had to comment on the shelving after commenting on that.
Yeah, everything was built by me.
I imagined like you built everything else out here and tricked it out.
Yeah, that's right, because Drew does.
Oh, I'm useless.
Yeah.
Here.
Here's the thing. 8 weeks ago, I gave Drew an ultimatum. I go, I'm going to give you 5 weeks. Let's figure something out.
We get married and do this thing for real, or I'm
for
done.
this wall.
Okay.
And if I don't hear anything, then I'm just going to do what I want to do.
And I was like, no. We'll totally get there and we'll do this.
This is very marital.
Yeah.
Like for real.
And then I showed up one day and it was just done.
There was blood everywhere. And he was in the hospital.
Yeah, Drew had no idea I did that.
It came out good.
It's our second week. It's our second week of shows with it.
I like it.
So when we talk about the retention that went on,
For the wall.
yeah, with the wall,
The retaining wall.
the retaining wall, and the retention of all the booze in the basement. Now it's in the room with us, so I don't have to walk that far when I need a refill.
Nice.
I do love it. In terms of not just the logistics, because I feel like people struggle with this concept on 2 levels, and I did see a lot of complaining over some of the people we re-signed.
Shock.
Yeah, shocker, right? People use the internet to bitch. No,
The internet's filled with hyperbole. Crazy.
no,
What?
not those people. What is your opinion on obtaining them all just in terms of staying ahead of the market and the ability of the Bills to continue to remain cap solvent and not be prisoners of the salary cap because they're getting ahead of these obligations?
I like it. I think it's a good way to roster build. It immediately made me think to the what the Atlanta Braves did several years ago when Ronald Acuna Jr. was on the come up and Ozzie Albies, and there's tons of examples you get for different teams, but Acuna is now one of the top 5 or top 3 when he's healthy players in baseball, and you look at his contract and it's like, oh my God, like it's tremendously like affordable and team friendly. If he's on the open market now, he's signing for like Soto money or somewhere close around there. So if you can get into these extensions on your young core early, obviously there's still somewhat of the risk, right? Like if they all of a sudden taper off or they don't continue to hit their trajectory, then you're kind of stuck with them at a plateaued value or
they're
plateaued
John
production.
Rocker.
Yeah, but Rocker is quite the person. But he was crazy for a year.
They just turn into John Rocker and you go, ooh.
Oh, Rocker. But he was
Ooh,
sweet for that
mistake.
1 year for the Braves, that one little bit. Not a lot of lefty closers. I'm a fan of them. I kind of have some qualms with one of them, but largely I'm happy with it overall. And I think just from a philosophical standpoint, yeah, if you can stay ahead of the market and get these guys while they're still what you believe on still on their upward trajectory and get them before they can really hit their market value, before the market jumps further, especially where we're in this flow of, and I know we'll get to it at some point either in this show or the live show, where every year the salary cap goes up and market values change.
Sure.
And you're paying different and
Yep.
someone who's paid the 8th most at a position today next year is paid the 14th most because guys are getting different and everything's jumping. So everything is relative, but I think from a philosophy standpoint, it's good if you can identify and
Sure.
and lock up your young core. You do it and it ends up being affordable in the long run and allows you to have schematic and roster consistency in the short term.
Like, just to throw the numbers out there for those of you listening at home, Greg Rousseau, at the time of signing his extension, is 16th in terms of average percentage of the salary cap at signing. He ranks 16th in the NFL at just 7.16%. So keeping somebody like starting defensive ends in the NFL, as we saw this past week, are getting more and more expensive.
Yes.
So at a time when pay at that position is skyrocketing, you kept a guy who, no, he's not an alpha talent at his position. You're never going to talk about, oh my God, top five pass rusher Greg Rousseau. That'll never be in his jacket. But what you will say is, if you take in the totality of what he does, he's incredibly competent at everything and a well-rounded player. And oh, by the way, you're paying him middle of the cap money, middle of the pack in terms of salary cap money. Terrell Bernard. For a middle linebacker's salary, he's 8th in the NFL at just 4.5% of the cap. Khalil Shakir, this is one of the more important players in the offense because he paced the team by almost double the guy behind him in terms of first down receptions. He's 30th in terms of percentage of the Bills' cap at the time of signing. And the cap goes up.
That is true.
Now that contract every year is going to look better, and you have this guy locked up for 4 years.
Yeah.
If you toss in guys like Ty Johnson, Alec Anderson, I mean, Alec Anderson, can we say this? You watch basketball.
I've heard of it.
Okay. Basketball has a 6 Man of the Year award. I want to believe that if we're talking about offensive linemen,
Oh, okay.
you would have to be able and willing to put Alec Anderson. If you took all 32 teams and looked at who is your swing guy off the bench, who's the first man up, you could do a lot worse than Alec Anderson. And in fact, he may have more upside than any. I mean, I'm not going to go. We're not going to sit here and go through everybody's roster. But there's guys who don't. There are teams who do not have 5 competent starting.
Yeah, he's still developing. The trajectory is still, in theory, upward.
And so there, for teams that don't have a good starting 5, Alec Anderson probably could be starting for some of those teams. And yet we have him as our super competent, kind of big tight end. We bring him in as a backup in certain situations. Like we're getting incredible value for the money that we're putting into these players.
Yeah. And him taking over too for like David Edwards, who the year before was a tremendous 6th offensive lineman. And then you move Edwards into the starting lineup and you replace him with Anderson. Honestly, one of the best values considering what he means and how important their heavy package and 6 offensive lineman sets are and what he offers. And yeah, just overall, I think with Rousseau and Bernard and Shakir, the Rousseau and Bernard deal are the most expensive out of everything. If you're looking at Rousseau, you have it broken down from average percentage of cap at the signing. If you're looking at it positionally, Rousseau is the 11th highest paid edge in terms of average annual value, 9th in total value, 7th in terms of guaranteed money. Bernard is 9th amongst linebackers in terms of average annual value, 5th in total value, 5th in guaranteed money. Mm-hmm. And then Shakir, 23rd in wide receiver average annual value, 18th in total value, 31st in guaranteed money. I think you hit it on the head for Rousseau. He's an elite run defender. Yep. Not just as an edge, as a defensive lineman. He is tremendously important to the defense as a force multiplier with what he does from a run responsibility standpoint, his ability to 2-gap just because of his length and his understanding of blocking schemes and what he offers. So he's tremendously important. He is more, like you alluded to, more of an edge 2 as a pass rusher. He's more of a Batman. He's more of a Robin than he is a Batman. So you either need to get him a running mate, like they tried to do or get him a true edge 1 next to him. But in theory, he could get better this year. He's made incremental improvement every year as a pass rusher. And you could make the case that in the middle of this contract extension, he could crop up into being a true edge 1 as a pass rusher. And
at the same time, you're still paying him like he's Robin.
Exactly.
And that's the beauty of the deal that they gave him. Now,
so this is like an MJF contract. Is that what we're going with?
The first one, yeah.
The first MJF contract.
Yeah, the second one, he cashed in big time, face of the franchise. You're all about. What'd you think of Hangman and MJF at Revolution? Or what about Ospreay and Fletcher? Am I right?
There's a guy named Ospreay.
Will,
come on.
His last name is Ospreay. His first name's Will.
Yeah.
He's arguably the best wrestler in the world. Has been for 6-7 years.
You can't change Ospreay. That's his given last name.
Ospreay. He's very good.
We got guys named after birds.
What'd you think of Timeless Tony?
The only guy involved with a bird that I will recognize in wrestling is Coco Beware.
Good reference.
And that's all I have to say about it.
Good reference.
It's still real to me, damn.
That's good. It's real to me.
Here's a question I have for you. The retention of long snapper Reed Ferguson, well, obviously massively important to someone who's a friend of his. Also a business partner of his, so it helps that he's going to be sticking around in town for a while.
Love the brand.
And also deciding to, at a pretty large salary for a kicker, deciding to keep Tyler Bass around. I know I was one of the people pounding the table last year going, there are guys getting paid $1.5 million who are doing a better job and a more consistent job than Tyler Bass. He rounded it out at the end.
He did.
So to watch a new special teams coordinator come in and jettison the punter.
Send a message.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask, does this feel to you like a scapegoating? Because it does to me.
I mean, they brought in competition midseason for Bass. They brought in other kickers, and he kept beating them out. I don't love having to pay a kicker a significant amount of money, especially one who might have the yips or was inconsistent, and those yips might return at some point. But to your point, he rounded it out as the season progressed, showed up big when it mattered most. I think with Martin, I think it's more just they've kind of done this at punter. It's been kind of a rotating cast of characters, and the holding is so important to Bass, and so I don't know if there's any disconnect there and what that means for him, but I don't think it's necessarily any scapegoating because they tried to get Bass out, but they brought in guys in mid-season, and he won the competition each time. So I was like, oh, like okay, like if he's going to keep doing that, and then he kind of righted the ship a bit. So I think it's just kind of how it shook out, and the cap savings that you could get for cutting Martin, and then that versus what a potential replacement looks like, and the mitigation factor of all of it.
I still think you could have, but I think you would have saved like 1.2 cutting Bass, and that 1.2 probably could have paid a kicker.
Yeah, fair. But is that kicker going to be better than Bass? Because again, they tried to bring in a kicker that you could pay that level in season, and Bass beat him out. Like they were ready. If you're having a kicking competition in season, you're literally like, hey, we're ready to move on for this guy. Whoever wins the job wins the job. And Bass kept beating him out.
It does make me wonder if they don't bring some form of competition to camp, whether it's UDFA talent, whether it's journeyman talent, just to say, hey, don't let Bass get comfortable, because clearly he responds well to that pressure.
Yeah, but also then, like, I don't know, does it give him the yips again? Mental health is so, like, wild for, like, the psychology of an athlete. Like, I don't know, man.
But if competition is the thing that breaks you, what the hell is going to happen when it's the AFC Championship game and I need Tyler Bass on a 53-yarder to send us to the Super Bowl? You want to talk about pressure? There's always pressure. It's always going to be there.
But maybe if he's got the confidence in himself from camp because he knows the job is his and it's been his all season, and he starts off hot and he stays hot for the whole year because he knows, you know what, I fended off the competition last year. They have faith in me. I'm the guy. You can make the case on either side. He gets too comfortable and he falls back in old habits, or they bring in competition and he falls apart, or he rises to the occasion. Either way. Like, I mean,
I was about to make a joke about kickers and overconfidence and how you have to have it, but then, there's the
way Takeshita was overconfident against Kenny Omega at Revolution.
Well, I was going to say that title. I was going to say then there's guys like Tucker in Baltimore who apparently are real confident with a lot of things. I don't know that we need any more of that here in the building, do we?
Not great.
Not great, Bob. Not great.
Not great. I'm sure he'll be fine and he'll kick for another team and get paid millions of dollars for forever. It's not like the NFL cares about anything that happens to women.
Yeah, it's just it's gross. And
keep that in mind when they do all their commercials for, like, women love the NFL too, and we love women. No, you don't.
But what I love is the concept of it goes from 1 and they're like, nah. And then it's 8. It's like, now it's 24. You're like, well, he's over there. Shut up.
Right. They're like, it's up to 24, and they're like, is there some smoke? Is there some fire to this smoke? Do we think it's real? It's at 24. There should have been fire at 1, and then it kept climbing. Like, what the fuck?
Here's what I'll say.
Sorry, swearing.
If people meet, because I give a shit about that.
Over here.
If 10 people come up to you and go, that Drew Gear guy, he's a real asshole.
Yeah.
And you go, I don't know, I've met him. He seems okay.
I wouldn't say that. I'd be like, I buy that. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but that's my point. Like, you either know me or you're like, well, I'll reserve judgment. But then if 50 people come to you and go,
yeah,
that True Gear guy is a real fucking problem. It's like at a certain point you have to.
I trust you way less now with that mustache.
I'm not gonna lie. I definitely so for as much as I didn't notice the shelving in the bottles, I definitely clocked the mustache as soon as we came in. I was like, that's new. All right.
He's like, that's not only new, it's upsetting.
And then I saw the one pie pizza and everything else melted away. But I definitely clocked that when I first saw it. I was like, all right, cool. He's going for it. I respect it.
Well,
he's trying to grow his mustache out like Jake Roberts.
I was going to go with Magnum TA, but I like the Jake Roberts reference. Nice.
So if we're talking about things that are upsetting the first time you see him,
Magnum TA.
When I see a tweet come across my timeline that Reggie Gilliam is returning to the Buffalo Bills,
love it.
I black out with rage. Oh. And Eric is out there right now listening to this going, fuck you, Drew.
I like Reggie Gilliam.
Go to hell, and I understand and respect his position. I just don't understand Reggie Gilliam. What is it you say you do here? If I'm one of the Bobs, I sit him down and I ask the question. Okay, Reggie. So you're listed here on the roster as a fullback. So how many times are you blocking for James Cook in like the red zone? Or how many times is this happening? You go, well, in the red zone a lot, but in the open field we run a lot of single back and we run out of the shotgun, so they don't really need me to do that. And you say, okay, so you play fullback what? 18 to 20% of the time. Okay, noted. How many times but you contribute in the passing game, right? And they go, well, about that. And you go, oh, okay, so you don't help us in the passing game. Special teams. Oh, I'm a core special teamer.
That is true.
Okay. How many special teams tackles do you have? Well, I mean, I have some, but not as many. And you go, oh, okay, so you're not. And then
Tackles aren't the only way to quantify special teams value.
And then you put it all down on paper and you come back like the Bobs and go, Reggie, what are you doing here?
What the hell is wrong with you people?
Exactly. And then he starts screaming and security has to escort him out of the building. It's a whole thing. At a time when there are fullbacks like Kyle Juszczyk available out on the market, we are still retaining a Reggie Gilliam. And I'm wondering if the Bills, because you go back through the history of the Bills' usage of fullbacks.
And he's going to bring us a Raising
It's not
Cane's.
even Bean. It's not even, I don't even blame just Brandon Bean. I think it's the franchise as a whole. There's something happening here. We haven't had a good one. What was it? Sam Gash?
Sam Gash was sweet.
Sam Gash might have
Larry
been.
Centers.
Larry Centers is also good.
The last time you could talk about a Bills fullback being somewhat meaningful, you got to go all the way back to those guys because we had what was his face? The guy came from the Vikings. It was LaShawn McCoy's first year here in Buffalo.
Oh, Powerhouse Hobbs.
Jerome Felton.
Jerome Felton.
Yeah, didn't he? No, he didn't do something weird. Someone else did something.
We got Jerome Felton to block for LaShawn McCoy, and then halfway through the year realized, oh, he doesn't follow blockers. He just makes his own cuts. He just does his own thing.
He charts his own destiny.
It's like, all right, cool. Well, then this is pointless. We don't need this guy. And then we signed Patrick DeMarco because you know what you have to have is a Patrick DeMarco.
You know what's funny is they've tried to get Juszczyk, and Juszczyk got paid big time by San Francisco because Juszczyk was leaving Baltimore. They tried to get Juszczyk. He got paid big money to go to San Fran, and then they got DeMarco instead.
Yep.
Which is ironic.
So then they come back around and they go, well, we've got this guy, Reggie Gilliam, and he really wants a Raising Cane's in Buffalo. And because we want that, and we want that for the city, we're going to keep him here. I still don't see any Raising Cane's, and that might be the best thing he can possibly do for me. What is the value of Reggie Gilliam?
I think he offers you the value to go, or the opportunity to go a true 21 personnel when needed. We've seen it for multiple years, and again, it hasn't been a ton. But last year, we saw a slight uptick down the stretch in the season. We saw it several years ago leading into a playoff run. I just think he gives you another layer of physicality and another opportunity to just mash people in the run game. And there's some athleticism to it. Obviously not as much as Juszczyk, but I think he skews more towards a traditional fullback than Juszczyk does at this point. And then I think also you factor in, I don't know, Mac Hollins being gone and how much of an importance of a role he had as a blocker.
Yeah.
Can Keon Coleman step into that role? Does another receiver step into that role? I don't want to be, I know people are down on him. I don't see Dalton Kincaid ever being a plus blocker who's going to take that role. So like you kind of do need, and then so is it the third tight end? Is it Reggie Gilliam? I think he offers you some insurance at the tight end spot, some rotational value from a personnel standpoint in case you need to flex to that. And then also from a special teams point. Now, if you're comparing him purely to Kyle Juszczyk, I think they're different schematically in what they offer you.
I'm just being a snarky jerk over here about the fact that I don't understand why. Me? Why would I do that? I just don't understand why a guy who, on the surface level, yields very little in terms of measurable production is so important to this team.
But it's the potential of production.
They obviously have a role for him. I'm just not thrilled about it.
I think it's really a thing where like he offers value when he's in there, but he's never going to be like the 21 personnel package with him and a running back in the backfield is never going to be the dominant personnel grouping. So you're never going to get that. When he's in there, like all jokes aside, when he's in there, he's effective. Like I get excited watching the tape knowing like, okay, Reggie Gilliam had like 12 snaps this week and there's good blocks. Like he's executing well, but it's never gonna.
I mean, I'll trust you if you're watching every single snap of the game and I go,
that is just a fact.
Well, that's why we have you here to talk about this.
Or I could be lying though. You never know. I might be making it up.
And then, he goes over there and obviously on his show, Disguised Coverage, which if you're not watching it, you're an idiot.
Appreciate it. That's nice. Thank you.
That's where I'll table that. So let's not talk about things that I'm already mad about. Let's talk about new people I'm not mad at yet. The new faces on the defensive line is where I want to start this conversation because it's probably the most impactful change or overhaul that we've made so far this offseason.
Yes.
And probably will make this offseason. I want to start with Michael Hoecht, edge, defensive tackle, kind of this tweener player It's funny that tweener used to be such a bad term. It used to be like, it used to come, it was it was like a pejorative term.
Yes, yeah.
And now when you hear tweener, you go, versatility.
Yeah. Oh, hybrid.
Oh, you could do all these things, and people's ears perk up.
Yeah.
But, Chris, if I called you a tweener back in... If I called you a tweener back...
If you called him a tweener now, I feel like that's insulting. I don't think that's good.
Hey, Chris, you're a tweener?
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
I mean, with that haircut, it's entirely possible.
Oh, boy.
So with this in mind... I'm thinking about guys like Keith Ellison, where I'm like, you're too small at this stage.
Nice pull.
You're too small at this stage of the NFL to be playing the position you're playing. And so it's weird to me that you're here.
Yeah.
You're not big enough to be a linebacker, but you're also too big to be a safety. Where do you fall here?
What is it you say that you do here?
What is it you do here? Now, tweeners have begun because the athleticism of the NFL has exploded.
Yeah.
So now you have these guys who, hey, I can be an edge rusher and I can play inside and I still have the weight and the size to hang with interior offensive linemen. And oh, by the way, I'm athletic enough that I can sometimes shade out and cover a wide receiver. And you go, what the hell is that? But then I think about Manny Lawson. People forget about this. There was a snap that I watched with my own two eyes. The Bills in the game where the Bills beat the Jets. It was the AJ Tarpley party where he had 2 interceptions against the Jets, one to seal the game, and stopped Ryan Fitzpatrick from making the playoffs with them because they lost that game.
Yeah.
There is a play where whoever their slot wide receiver is, it's almost like they ran like what was supposed to be a bubble screen and it turned into a wheel route, and he's just going up the sideline. And Fitz hucks it deep to him, but he's perfectly covered. And I'm looking at him like, that guy seems huge. Oh, that's Manny Lawson.
That's right.
It's Manny Lawson, who's an outside linebacker.
NC State's own.
He has no business being down the field that far, but he hung in coverage. You can get away with a lot of things when you have guys who have that rare athleticism and size combination.
Yeah.
And Hoecht seems like he has that.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of things that we've talked about this offseason have been about the monetary impacts of contracts, and we talked a lot about void years like a week ago. Teams are weaponizing them, finding ways to key Super Bowl runs, and yet here's Michael Hoecht with a whopping $1.8 million.
Whatever you got to do to spread the cap hits out, man.
And I just don't understand. 1.8, that's a tease. You're just dipping your toe in the water. But like, Bean, what the hell? Like, I feel like the Buffalo Bills should be in there like the guy who gets asked if he wants to, like, do you want to, you're at a bar, you're having a couple beers.
Whiskey sour.
And some huckster comes up to you and goes, hey.
Some Husker, I'm in a Nebraska bar.
Some huckster comes up to you and goes, hey, buddy, you seem like you're having a good time. Do you want to jump into a swimming pool filled with Vaseline and wrestle the blue light girls? And you go, yeah, that's how he needs to be getting into void years and just rolling around in them if you're Brandon Bean. Like, I want you in there, like, getting in it. And you give me 1.8. You give me 1.8.
What is the 1.8? What does that equate to? What's in the pool and who's in the pool with you?
I'm just looking at 1.8 void money and going, he must have been sitting down writing this going, oh, like, I got to shave 1 point. That's Reed Ferguson money. I can't have this.
That's fair. Gotta spread it out.
Oh, God.
His wrestling comp to me is Pete Gas. Mean Street Posse.
Yeah.
Went to Brown.
Okay.
Smart guy. Pete Gas, Mean Streets of Greenwich, Connecticut. Smart guy. Pete Gas probably debuted on Sunday Night Heat.
That's why I really thought they were Shane McMahon's best friends when I was a little kid. I really believed that. And I was like, oh man, I didn't realize they were wrestlers. That's one that got me. Even though I knew wrestling was fake, that was one that got me. Good pull. Mean Street Posse. What a horrible name.
So I guess when we talk about value,
yeah,
right, because that's some of what we're talking about here tonight. You've already done all of the X's and O's breakdown over there in the film room.
Didn't you talk
over
to
there
him?
In disguised coverage.
We did. Eric
you
and
guys
I talked to him.
Had him on the show.
Yeah.
Which, if you haven't heard it, I don't know what the hell you're doing.
Is that out yet?
Yeah, it dropped tonight at it dropped Wednesday, March 13th at 7 p.m.
So if you try to nail down value for a guy like this, who's versatile, but he also, like, when you're a jack of all trades, master of none, it becomes hard to estimate what good value should look like. So then what I try to do is I say, okay, well, where can I put him in terms of pay scale, and who's the closest comp I have to him in that regard? And I come up with AJ Epinesa. Now, when you look at them next to each other, they're going to play a similar position. primarily.
I hope not. Well, kind of I do, but I hope not.
I hope they have a better plan.
Bro, if they... I'll wait till it's my turn to speak.
I look at Epinesa with his 12 pressures, 4 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and he's playing about 55% of the snaps. And you go back to what Hoecht was doing in a much more multifaceted role last year, and he was about the same, with arguably much better line talent around him. And 19 pressures, 5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, about 57% of the snaps. The salary is right in the ballpark of what Epinesa is making. Bills fans have never been wowed by AJ Epinesa. I'm one of them. I hated the pick. I hated the idea of converting him into something he wasn't.
Especially during the COVID year, like having to make him change. It's that first year in that COVID year was really a lost year because of the changes and COVID.
Like when you talk about Havoc production, like that's a new statistic that people are starting to.
Everybody loves
Halloween Havoc.
Halloween Havoc.
Great pay-per-view. Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Cruiserweight title, Havoc 98. You know that. We were talking about that earlier. You were like, you know what? Screw.
The only Rey Mysterio I know is the horse that I
Rey Mysterio.
Rey Mysterio.
Oh, that's one of the best tweets I've ever seen.
But there were some people like me who were kind of floating the concept that you could probably cut AJ Epinesa if you really needed cap space to go get a more dominant talent at defensive end. Like, hey, I need $3 million to make Trey Hendrickson happen. All right, buy Epinesa. I'll fire you into the sun if that's what it requires. Do you consider him in terms of the role, in terms of the fact that Epinesa is still here, and in terms of the fact that he doesn't have a defined role yet, and we haven't seen how they're going to use him, do you think he's a good value?
I want to lead with AJ Epinesa real quick. So I know we gave like the pressure stats. Out of 126, and let me backtrack a minute. 2 seasons ago, he started to uptick in terms of pass rush production. We were seeing the hand usage, the get off, which he had for a couple seasons in a row. He had one of the best get offs in the league, like amongst the best edges in general. Like he was tremendous. Changed a little bit last year. We didn't really see the pass rush production that you would like, but from a run defense standpoint, out of 127 qualifying edges, he was 24th in run stop percentage and he was 16th in run stops. He turned into a legitimate force player off the edge and a guy actually making plays on the ball. He and Rousseau started to become a legitimate good pair on first and second down on the edge. The problem with their run defense was the spine and the interior and displacement and all these issues. So for what AJ Epinesa, I think, lacks from a statistical value as a rusher, he really started to uptick and make value for as a run. What happened?
Drew, hold on. I'm gonna put the camera on Drew for results. Buffalo signed a wide receiver named Walmart Chenault.
No!
Laviska Chenault?
No! Why? Why is this happening to me?
What are you so upset?
What?
This is per Tom Pelissero.
Laviska Chenault?
Yes.
Oh, that's really
Signed
interesting.
with the Bills.
Why is his first name Walmart here?
Because you can go down there and find a million guys just like him. He's a Chinese knockoff of some other wide receiver that you've already seen.
I've been to Walmart.
In the NFL.
I've been to Walmart a lot of times. I have not once seen Laviska Chenault there. I've seen lamps and fantastic bedding.
Try that JW Dant. That might be a tailgate replacement.
Interesting. What's the deal?
I'm blind without my glasses.
Break the news. What's the deal?
It just
1
says,
year? 2 year?
It just says veteran Laviska Chenault is signing with the Bills.
That's right.
37 minutes ago.
Interesting.
Per Tom Pelissero.
Interesting.
Son of a bitch. Here I was having a good night.
They needed a wide receiver.
I was having fun sitting here talking a little ball with my friend Anthony, and you decide to spring this on me. They go, hey, how about this? What if we get a guy who plays football? He plays football with the agility of Fat Kelvin Benjamin.
Oh, that's
And at the same time,
true.
He's got the hands of Gabe Davis. He goes, I got to think about that one.
Yeah, I do.
Walmart. So here's the problem with Laviska Chenault. He was this guy. We kind of like we're just sitting here talking about Hoecht. No, hang on now. In theory, when he was coming out of college, the draw on Laviska Chenault was supposed to be, he's so versatile. I can do so many things.
But there is a vast difference between prospect versatility projection versus proven NFL on tape projection.
I'm just saying, when they came out, if we're sitting here having a conversation about versatility and guys who can fit and all these things, the only thing that I see Laviska Chenault fitting into is one of those jumpsuits of the guys who spray down the cars outside at Delta Sonic.
Oh, it's horrible.
Like, he doesn't fit. Like, what are you going to do? We're not a screen offense, okay?
We run RPOs and bubbles and box versus coverage numbers and reads.
Would you rather have Laviska Shenault running that, or would you rather have Khalil Shakir running that route?
Well, that's not.
No, but if you have to call it.
Would I rather have pizza or get punched in the face? Like, I would rather have the pizza, obviously. But what happens if there's no pizza available and all I have is the punch in the face? Maybe I'll take that over nothing. I doubt he's anything significant. He's not going to crack the top of the wide receiver room.
He better be cut in training camp. They better not have paid him any legitimate money. Or
maybe he finally achieves his potential in this camp and he becomes the prince that was promised. I can't believe you compared him to Hoecht, though. I love Hoecht.
No.
Should we go back to Hoecht?
What I'm saying is with Hoecht, damn you, Chris. You ruined my...
I saw the look on his face, and I was like, I didn't know if it was sweet or... look at it's that grin.
He's grinning like the cat that ate the canary.
It's the Cheshire cat from Alice in Wonderland. I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, oh, it shut me down.
See? And
like calling a woman an asshole. I was like, what?
And you thought I was mean earlier for snickering when he said he was unemployed.
Oh,
we're just jerks down here. This is what we do. You walked into the jerk store. And guess what? Everything is stocked.
What's the difference? You're their all-time bestseller. Yeah? Well, I had sex with your wife. His wife is in a coma.
He just leaves the building.
We'll break down wall 4. So behind you, see how we have lights over those picture frames? Mm-hmm. We're supposed to have lights over those bottles of bourbon.
Okay.
And then... Drew, this is actual texts. Also, that last video was kind of dark. And you'd asked me how many lights, and I said 8 lights. And then you go, you don't want the lower shelf lit. I'm looking at the straight-on shot. It'll be a distraction. Me, and your teeth aren't?
These are conversations we have with each other on the fly.
Terrible friendship.
It's the best.
Michael Hoecht.
We are screw Whiskey Ginger over there and the crazy Asian guy. We are bad friends. It's us. We are bad friends.
Yeah, Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino.
Nice. Good pull. Michael Hoecht is sweet.
Michael Hoecht, awesome. He's
So in all seriousness, so I mentioned the numbers on Epinesa. Better run defender than he gets credit for. This also factors in the Bosa conversation, which we'll talk about. But Hoecht, the big thing with Hoecht, and not to plug... I don't like doing plugs, but myself and Eric in the film room, we had him as a guest. We spoke with him yesterday. One of the best pieces of content we've ever done.
Does he shop at Walmart?
I don't know. Didn't ask. But he loves Laviska Shenault. No, I'm just
kidding. Laviska Shenault will teach him.
One of my favorite things about him, aside from his versatility, stems from the athleticism and size and hand usage and then how you can deploy him and all these things. And the Rams did a great job with it. But my favorite thing with him, and the way I keep describing him, is dirt, sandpaper, and violence. And the way he plays is just so tremendously violent. And his violence is only matched by how scientifically he was able to break down the game of football with us in the film room. He's taught.
So he's a smart guy, but also
he went to Brown.
He did go to Brown. But what was cool that he let us
then you
know,
have to be smart.
So they didn't have a green dot initially in the Rams on the Rams last year. So in terms of calls and stuff, the green dot is the one who gets you set, calls everything, adjusts.
Yeah.
He was playing, he called it what they were called in LA, the spinner role. So he's playing some off-ball stuff. He's really like a linebacker, but obviously we know him as an edge and all this different stuff. But he's responsible for communication between the front and the second level and the third. He's adjusting stuff pre to post snap for people, and then he's just a violent bastard on the snap. What my hope is, and we talked to him about it a little bit, he says they haven't solidified things. He's in Hawaii right now for the NFLPA meetings, and then he's getting to Buffalo and they'll go through some things. But my hope would be that even if he's just a regular edge in this system, I still like that. You're going to get good run defense. You're going to get some good hand usage. He's going to be violent. You're going to get the dirty work and the sandpaper and the grit and the tenacity, and it'll give you some pass rush pop from time to time. But I really sincerely hope they deploy him how the Rams did, which was these different creative 5-down fronts. Sometimes he's an off-ball rusher. Sometimes, and this is the thing that you can't quantify, and we broke this down in the film room, ironically, he's doing things with their 5-down pressure package was great. So it'd be him and Jared Verse on one side, and on the other side it'd be Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, and Byron Young. So you're just sending out 5 assassins to be a problem. And Hoecht is doing things he's the spiker on a game to let Verse come free. He's faking he's rushing to occupy the guard so that Fisk can loop from the other side and come clear through that gap, and the guard isn't able to pull over and help. He does a lot of the dirty work stuff that frees other people that is schematically viable, but aside from that, is also schematically viable himself because you can use him as a spiker to demolish a center or demolish a guard or a tackle. You can have him rush and beat someone one-on-one off the edge or up the gut. You can drop him into coverage. Like, all jokes aside, he's dropping into the low hole. There's a great rep I posted on Twitter against the Pats. He drops into the hook curls, and he looks outside. There's nobody there, so his eyes come back across. Hunter Henry's coming on a drag. He triggers. He drives. Henry catches the ball. He detonates on him, disconnects him from the ball, and it's a PBU. Like, if they use him how I think they should, and this is where my excitement comes from, the Bills need more schematic multiplicity in their front. I don't think they can continue to live in this 4-down over front. You can't do that. Everybody talks about, what the Eagles did, and everyone wants to copy that. The Eagles
is this where the Nielsen hire?
Yes, and that's so you talk about a guy like Hoecht, Nielsen's familiarity and prevalence and proficiency in running simulated pressures and creepers. A guy like Hoecht, even Epinesa falls into that. Like, what you can do schematically, Hoecht is somebody that's a legitimate chess piece that can open those things up as an individual player, and then you add it with Nielsen. I'm very hopeful for what it means. Even if he's just operating the way they have been, I still like it, but my hope is that it stacks schematically.
So then when you talk about, hey, Epinesa actually looked like he was kind of rounding into being a meaningful player the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Like, this is a guy we start to trust on early downs.
Yes.
Hey, we added a guy who plays a really physical brand of defensive end, and you can mix and match him inside, outside. You can do some things with him.
A lot. And also, just in case, I know there's different weights and things for people. We went over this in the episode. He's 6'4", 267 pounds. Okay. I know like PFF has him listed at 310. Pro Football Reference has like 265. He started out as a legitimate defensive tackle coming out of Brown, but then as he started to work through different things, he shed weight, tried to do different things, find a way to get onto the field more, and that got him down to 270, 280, then 275, 270, and now he's at 267.
So with all of that in mind, in terms of how it almost sounds like we have between the three of Rousseau, Hoecht, Epinesa, you have the bones of a pretty good first and second down.
Absolutely. You have a good run defense edge grouping with some pass rush upside from Hoecht, Rousseau, and even Epinesa.
I'm not going to lie to you. There is a part of me, if I didn't know it would upset Chris greatly, I want to take this glass, I want to throw it across the room, and when the glass breaks, go, oh my God, that's Joey Bosa's music.
Nice.
Now, if you've listened to the live shows, this is airing like a day afterwards. You probably already heard my take on the signing and everything else. Listening to your film room last night that aired with Eric Turner, you made the point that Bosa looked like he spent a lot of 2024 laboring. And he admitted as such. He said he was playing about 60 to 70% for most of last year's. Yeah. And you have to imagine that a lot of that was probably exacerbated by his early down run defense responsibilities. Mm-hmm. Now, when you take a look at the room and the way that you've kind of described it in terms of defensive ends, what's your feeling about him sliding into that Von Miller role of, hey, I need you for about 27 to 30% of the snaps. I'm going to bring in obvious passing situations where it would be advantageous for us to have that, 2nd and 15, or maybe not even 2nd and 15 because they're probably more apt to run there just to try to get to a reasonable third down. 3rd and long, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. God forbid.
Couple first downs and seconds here and there to keep everybody fresh.
Yeah.
Yada, yada.
Do you see, even with his injury history, him being a guy who can be viable in that role and actually earn the money that they decided to give him?
Yeah, absolutely. It truly, and this isn't like a novel thought or concept, it truly just comes down to the health. Like, how healthy is he? And, I like that he said what he said today in terms of the 60 to 70% last year. And, you referenced what I said in the film room. You could just see it. Like, he looked like a guy in pain. And the type of injuries he had, right? So he's got
I don't know that he looks like a guy in pain. I look like a guy in pain sometimes.
No, but a
guy in pain isn't still like dragging down Derrick Henry.
His own father.
Fair. Hey, what?
He said, you look like a guy who also doesn't know his own father.
Oh, what are we doing here? That's terrible.
This is the terrible hour with Chris and Drew.
So
you just get to be a party for it.
But yeah, I do think he can have that upside. Now, I don't think he's going to be.
My dad's going to hit him in the throat, by the way. It's going to be funny. I'm going to get it on tape. Put it on our Instagram.
I would actually like
thousands
to see that.
of hits.
Do that. That'd be actually
My dad is going to sucker punch him. It's going to be
invite him the next time I'm over so I can see the punch in person. I kind of want to see it. I do think, he's been banged up for several years. Last year, obviously, the hand injury, the hip injury, the lower back injury, you could see it in his movement. Like,
Sure.
it just looked pained and labored, like you mentioned.
But in terms of his pass rush style.
So he fits with what the Bills want from an archetype perspective. Like, they want power guys. They want guys to compress the pocket, guys who can push people back. Now, in his prime, he could combine that with like, oh, I'm going to slip you and I'm going to go around the arc. Like, I have the speed, I have the juice, I can do all these things. Now, he might be able to tap into some of that.
If he's not playing rundowns.
If he's not, or not even that, if he's healthy combined with not playing the rundowns. And also, too, like, I don't want to shade it as he's this guy who can't play the run.
Beverage?
No, I'm kind of hoping I'm going to get another whiskey sour, so I'm going to save myself for that. Awesome.
I'll make you one for the live show.
I appreciate you. So, like, if you look at his numbers from 2019 through 2021, you're talking like 60-plus pressures, 30-plus run stops each year, including one year, like 72 pressures and 40-something run stops. Like, he was one of the best edge defenders against the pass and the run. He plays the run for real. He's not just some, like, pass rusher, siloed guy. But I think with the run defense prowess you have with Rousseau, Hoecht, and Epinesa, you can let Bosa just be a mercenary and an assassin. And if he is healthier, you can maybe uptick his snaps here and there. But the big thing is just his pocket compression style, the power that he has, and his understanding of quarterback drops and angles to the QB. He knows he's not that guy that's going to get run by the QB if he beats someone around the yard. Or if he goes through somebody, you're not all of a sudden getting around him.
You and Eric mentioned that Von Miller last year.
Yes.
There was a lot of times where, like, everyone's saying, oh, look, his pass rush win rate was awesome. And you're like, yeah, but then when it came to getting to the quarterback's spot, he would get wide or he would get pushed too far.
Because he's a different type of, Von is the athleticism and the dip and the bend, but those guys, like, if you get caught at the right angle, you can get run by. Bosa, thicker, more core strength, more power. He's trying to set you up to go through you, or he's trying to set you up to go through your outside. Like, he's running the outside by going through your shoulder and flattening. Von is trying to just clear you and get around you and go around. And so I do think Bosa right now is, I think he's the overall better player than Von. I still think that upside is there. And then you talk about if a guy is healthy, and then if you reduce his snap count and he doesn't have to play all these snaps like he and Khalil Mack did in LA, you get the opportunity to potentially lower the opportunity or the risk of injury. I like the upside there. I do think there is a fair share of, I don't know, he strikes me as the dude who could, like, park his car and, like, pull a groin on the way to the facility.
I'm not going to lie. Yesterday I had my physical, like my annual physical. It's 7:00 in the morning. I pull into the doctor's office.
At the Buffalo Zoo?
Yes. I go to get out of the truck and somehow just miss my running board completely. And I'm in dress shoes, so I just turn my ankle in the parking lot.
Oh, it's bad.
And I'm
Bosa.
And I just let out just a burst of profanity. And luckily it's 7:00 in the morning. There's no one in that parking lot.
Except your doctor, who also just arrived.
And I'm limping in the door, and I go, and then they're looking at me like, oh, are you okay? I go, this just happened. I don't have a chronic problem. It literally just happened.
I'm not here for that.
Yeah, I'm not here for that. Don't talk. So then, of course, my doctor comes in and goes, oh, so, they told me you have a thing with your ankle. I don't want to talk about it. I'm here for the rest of the horse shit. Just tell me that I'm healthy. He goes, well, shockingly, you have perfect 120/80. I go, that's what I'm talking about.
But that mustache.
Yeah, but that mustache, it could be hazardous to everyone else's health. You got to watch that.
I'm sorry. This is what you've done to me.
Exactly. See, it's fun, isn't it?
This environment.
See, let the hate flow through you.
Yeah, nice.
So I
think the Sith is stronger than the Jedi. If I was a Force user, I'd beat Sith all day.
100%.
Not even close.
So when you think about the remake that's going on the defensive line, Larry Ogunjobi, just name. Quick hit before we kind of move on.
Yeah.
You guys really dressed it well last night. You did a great job of breaking down the fact that anybody who's just box score hunting, like I was, looks at it and goes, I remember this guy used to be something.
Yeah, his last year in Cincinnati, he spent the last year and 3 years in Pitt. His last year in Cincinnati was very productive.
And you were like, well, and you saw him come out of Cleveland. He went to Cincinnati, had a great year as an interior pass rusher, and then disappeared by all accounts.
He's never been outside the AFC North. I just realized this.
Yeah, his entire career.
It's only just been his rotating teams there.
So then You look at it, though, when some nuanced eyes get put to it, and you say, well, every single scheme he's been a part of has asked him to do something different.
Fair.
What he was asked to do in Cincinnati is like what Lou Anarumo wanted him to be a part of was not what they needed from him in Pittsburgh.
Yes, completely different.
Completely different front.
Yeah.
So now he has to be a different type of player, but he adapted to it and did it well. Well enough that he's making $8 million fully guaranteed.
Fair point.
So with that in mind, I like the fact that he took snaps at, well, when they call it end though, right? Like it's more of like it's a 3-4 end.
Yeah, so it's like a 4 or a 4-eye, which means you are lined. If you're in a 4, you're lined up, head up on a tackle. If you're a 4-eye, you're on the inside shoulder of the tackle. So majority of his snaps are coming in a 4 or 4-eye.
But where that makes me interested is when I go back to the Super Bowl in my head, and this is the thing that gave every Bills fan FOMO, was watching the Eagles' defensive front just shred the offensive line of the Chiefs, and not being able to apply nuance to it in real time where you go, oh, they took Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith out of the game. They stopped the interior pass rush, and now what they're doing, I mean, they're still doing it, but they're mixing in stunts to the outside. And now they're just butchering these guards who are stuck on islands with shitty tackle play. And it's just falling apart in front of everyone's eyes. And so when you're watching that happen, you look at Larry Ogunjobi and you go, well, I mean, if he has the ability to go out there and wrangle with a tackle and a guard a little bit, and he's got some size, and maybe the guy like Russo might be able to benefit from a little bit of help in this regard on passing downs. And maybe you might see him flash a little bit more if he's not being doubled on an edge, where you could get a guy out there, or you could just leave him inside to contend with a center and a guard. And that's okay because he's also done that well, depending on how he's been deployed. I think Eric Turner said that he predicted that he would be the most underrated signing of Brandon Beane this offseason. I guess the question is, does he also, just in terms of helping the defensive line and the rotation, the pass rush, does he bring enough to the table that we can kind of keep these linebackers clean? Because I think that was a huge problem. You talked about the issue with the spine of the defensive line.
Yeah.
One of the bigger issues we had was a lot of games where you saw our defense struggle. It's because they couldn't keep guys off. We have an archetype at linebacker now. They're small pursuit players, small pursuit style players. And the problem with that is that if you get a guard up on those guys, it's, Milano could occasionally shed those blocks well and get in to make a play. Terrell Bernard can occasionally do it. Dorian Williams, I don't think he's savvy enough yet. That linebacker core is going to really struggle if that tackle room can't do their job better. Does he help in that regard?
No. He is... and I've seen this from like a lot of folks like, oh, okay, he's going to be a 3-tech. I think for as much as, and I've been a huge proponent of this, and I know several others are, for as much as like got to get a 1-tech. You got to get like a space eater. Like
I thought we were going to get Delvin Tomlinson. I thought we were holding out for him.
I wanted Roy Lopez super bad. The Bills version, or the vision, I should say, for their interior are guys like Larry Ogunjobi. It's what Austin Johnson and Dwayne Carter were last year. Austin Johnson was a free agent target of mine for the Bills 2 seasons ago when he was coming from the Giants. And he was a big-bodied 1-tech. He went to the Chargers, still similar body type, similar type of play style. He came to the Bills. I was like, sweet, rotational 1-tech, but behind Daquan Jones, here we go. And this isn't confirmed from this is just my own eyes. He was very trimmed down for the Bills, to the point where him and Dwayne Carter look similar build. They're each playing 3-tech. They're each playing 1-tech. Their version of a 1-tech is still more penetration based. I think Ogunjobi's going to get work as a 3-tech, and I also think he's going to get work as a 1-tech. They don't prioritize space eaters and guys who can anchor and handle displacement. Ogunjobi is very much, let me get penetration, let me get upfield. One of my biggest concerns and my dislikes for the signing is my biggest issue last year on the interior, if you watch, double teams. Carter's getting blown off the ball. Johnson's getting blown off the ball. Every once in a while it'll happen to Ed Oliver, but he's 290 pounds, so it's somewhat understandable. But Ed Oliver can split it. He'll recognize the blocking scheme. He'll do something. Phillips is getting blown off the ball. Jefferson's getting blown off the ball. They didn't care. Their best guy to anchor and handle double teams was sitting on the practice squad, Elianku. They didn't call him up once.
I was furious. I go, why are they treating this guy so poorly?
Because
they keep cutting him and then bringing him back.
Because he's 90-10.
He was their 2 a.m. phone call.
He's 95 to 5 run defense to pass rush. You need somebody if you're going to be run defense skewed for the Bills, it's got to be like 55-45 or maybe like 60-40, somewhere in that regard. I think Ogunjobi's going to play 3-tech. I think he's also going to play 1-tech. He's going to offer you juice and pop and like penetration, great hand usage. But the issue is he's going to get blown off the ball time to time, not even time to time, by double teams. It's very all gas and no brakes. He'll either penetrate that double team or just gum it up, or he's going to get driven off the ball, and it's going to be the same thing. And guys are getting to Bernard and Milano, but again, that's what they want.
So hearing this, you kind of walked into my next question, kind of actually how we round this entire defensive line conversation out. When you look at all that and you think about the work that they've done, there was obviously a focus to improve the defensive line. Do you think they've done enough that it would dissuade them from investing or at least having to reach in the first round and maybe even with one of those 2 second-round picks for a defensive line talent? It seems like where they are in the second round could be the sweet spot for getting one of these space-eating types that doesn't have a lot of pass rush juice, but is a monster and has a great anchor.
Yeah.
It seems like that could be the sweet spot for getting one where you're not expending premium capital and at the same time you're still getting good value.
Yeah.
Do they still need that body, or do you think that they can get by with what they've added?
So if we're just talking defensive line in general, unless somebody tremendous falls, and I wouldn't be opposed to like if Donovan Ezaraku from Boston College is there at 30, like he's so intriguing. Like I wouldn't be like, all right, cool, take him. We'll see what happens. We'll figure it out after, right? But I think edge is, I'm comfortable and set at edge right now. I like the grouping of Rousseau, Hoecht, Epinesa, Bosa.
That's a bold statement.
It's right now.
A lot of people would be real pissed if they were like, if they heard that come out of Brandon Beane's mouth, if he got on a microphone later and said, you know what, guys, I know you don't want to hear this, but I'm done at edge.
Well,
it'd be a riot.
The reason I'm comfortable with it, especially from the first 3 rounds perspective, is you look at it, I still think defensive tackle is a hole. Corner 2 is a hole.
Yes.
Corner 3 is a question. I still might maybe like to add a wide receiver. I know what they've done at safety. I wouldn't be opposed if Malachi Starks felt that they could do there. Like, so you could add another edge and I wouldn't be disappointed or upset. What I'm saying is I'm like, if I'm set at edge relative to what's going on at defensive tackle and especially corner. And if we're just sticking on the defensive line, I personally think you need somewhat more of a plugger. I think you need somebody that is skewed more towards run defense to help you a little bit. I don't think the Bills are going to go in that regard. I think the Bills are comfortable being Daquan Jones is our biggest body inside. And the other 3 guys, we're just going to go for penetration, disruption, and chaos. That's where we're going to go. Like, I think Ogunjobi, I feel like their hope is Ogunjobi and Carter can both hold up enough and play 1-tech and then also play 3-tech and do those things. Now, I don't think they can, so I have cause for concern here. But
well, I don't believe that.
Like the displacement is an issue. Now, again, we can all play this dance and be like, oh, who cares? Like, they can get blown off the ball and it'll still be fine. It all equates out in the end. You got to stop the pass, yada, yada. I get all that. But I'm worried about the run displacement, especially with the way NFL football is trending and what happened to the Bills last year. And I don't think they've solved that issue. I think the displacement, and when I talk about displacement, I mean guys getting blown off the ball. And it happens both ways. You're getting guys blown off the ball vertically, north and south. You're getting guys blown off the ball in gap scheme, east and west. Either way, it's a problem. Ogunjobi is better against displacement than Carter and Johnson were, but it's still a concern for him, especially against double teams. Carter, this maybe is hot takey because I know I've said similar things on Twitter and people have like fought back on me. I'm not concretely judging any rookie until like year 3. I would not bat an eye if they moved on from Dwayne Carter right now. His rookie year was so poor. He was never a plus run defender at Duke.
I guess the thing is, if I don't know your name and if I can't say your name out loud and the average fan goes,
oh yeah,
I remember that guy from Game X.
Yeah.
Not even from like, oh yeah, that guy was a stud. Just, hey, I remember that guy.
He had a couple flashes against the Texans and that was it. And
the
people,
Titans, he had one play against the Titans.
Oh yeah, like that one 4th down or 3rd down, something crazy. Yep. And then people like to go and be like, oh well, ever since that injury, it wasn't the injury. And his thing in college against Duke, coming out at Duke, my biggest issue was his ability to anchor against double teams and not get displaced. He wasn't a guy that was dropping the knee and splitting, and he wasn't able to anchor either. So any double team was just blowing him off the ball. But his thing was, okay, he could have some pass rush pop. He didn't give any of that, which is why I wanted Elianko. I'm like, at least give me somebody who's good at something. You got these guys inside that are like more versatile and more overall
Dwayne Carter's
good.
it's like me trying to play basketball. I just exist. I can't shoot worth a damn.
Fair. And he like very low pass rush productivity and then worse against the run. I don't think they're going to move on from him, but I really could see a world where they're comfortable with defensive tackle being like, cool, it's Ed and Daquan again, and then Ogunjobi and Carter. Carter and Ogunjobi can both do some 3-tech and 1-tech stuff. I don't think they should, but I think they can. I think they need more of. I think Ogunjobi's a good rotational body. I think the second line of rotation on the interior should be Daquan Jones and Larry Ogunjobi, and they need a starter opposite of Ed Oliver.
All I know is they better keep Elianko on speed dial. Although he does seem to be our 2 a.m. phone call.
They're never going to play him.
It's been a cool thing, though, to watch them kind of tactically rebuild this group when they didn't have a ton of cap space to work with. And even though they manufactured a lot of cap space, they use it in a lot of different ways. Yes. There's still time as we're still adding Chenaults and we're doing all this fun stuff, guys. Free agency's awesome. I thought this was like, right, isn't this supposed to be fun? Fuck. Yeah, so free agency's been great, guys. I'm really enjoying myself.
Josh Palmer and Derek Forrest are cool.
I know. And for those of you who heard the live show already, you already know what we think about them. But for tonight, we got to get the hell out of here. Anthony, where can everybody follow you, and what do you have coming up for disguised coverage in the film room?
You can find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro2_ANT. Find me on Blue Sky at proant. No underscores there, just PROANT. And yeah, I host a show called Disguised Coverage live every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. And then I co-host the Cover One Film Room, which is uploaded every Wednesday.
People know.
Oh, that's fair. Well, you never know. You never know.
I just want to hear from you.
So I do that film room. Everything is really kind of going with the flow of this offseason. If more moves happen, analyzing those things in a vacuum, and then within the larger scale, doing a lot of draft prep coming up in terms of positional breakdowns, positions of need, prospect rankings. I do a big board anywhere from 125 to 150 people. I'll put that out. And then really, once that's all settled, I do kind of like an off-season project. Last year, I focused on condensed formations and digging into a lot of tape and breaking down things from the Rams, Lions, and Texans, how condensed formations were the way of the league, why the Bills needed to opt into that, how they already started based on the body types at wide receiver and what that would mean for the 2024 season. I'm doing a similar project this year based on league trends and how the Bills will fit into that, and that'll be coming down the pike on Disguised Coverage, and then Film Room will be breaking down a lot of similar things in a multitude of ways. I appreciate you.
Guys, it's been a lot of fun, but we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. It's Chris Kruger. It's Anthony Prohaska. This has been your Rock Pile Report.